Welcome back to the Becoming Her podcast. It is our first episode of 2026, which is
Oh
crazy.
my gosh, that's right.
I know.
Holy cow.
I know.
I didn't
How
think
does
about
that
that.
happen? Well, I swear it was July, and I think I made a joke. Well, I remember making a joke. I'm like, before you know it, it'll be Christmas, and here we are now, and it's 2026.
Preach. Yeah.
Preach.
Well,
That's how how it goes. So,
I don't remember 2025. I'm not sure that that's a bad thing, but
well,
here we are.
I know we blink and then it'll be this time 2027. I'll be like, this is our first episode of 2027. How did that happen? I'm calling that now. And we can reference back to this episode and be like, that's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. I am so excited to talk about this with you today. Ann and I were
Mm.
talking a little bit before we hit the record button. And this, for me personally, has just been something I've been having a lot of conversations around leading into 2026, new year resolutions. And we're going to talk about today, quote unquote, maybe I haven't even decided what I'm going to title this podcast just yet, but we're going to talk about fit privilege. We are going to
Mm.
talk about how I personally feel, and I would love to dive into just your personal feelings. I mean, what you see with the women that you work with, that I have a belief getting fit, and this is coming from somebody, you guys, who's been 100 pounds overweight multiple times, but and has experienced both sides of the coin. Getting fit would, and I'm not just talking skinny here. I want to make that clarification, right? I'm talking getting fit, as in you walk into a room and fit has a presence. And
Yes.
anybody listening to this right now understands what I'm talking about. You can probably visually see it in your head. But getting fit would help 90%, dare I even say eliminate 90% of your problems. And I want to dive into this. And I want to make this clear because I know this can be triggering for some. I mean, I've been creating content around it. I've definitely seen some people's triggers come out. But getting fit does not make you superior. And I want to make that very, very, very clear. I do not have that belief system at all. But I do believe that it removes the coping mechanisms that keep you stuck.
Mm.
And that's the part that I want to dive into because I don't feel like most people are avoiding fitness necessarily because it's quote unquote hard. They're avoiding the version of themselves that it requires.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so that's the piece that we're really going to dive in today. So, with that being said, I would love to hear from your stance, Anne, and maybe like a psychological standpoint. Why does fitness feel threatening to people on an identity level?
Well, and when you said that, I initially when you initially said it, I kind of bristled a bit because I was like, oh, this is not going to go over well. We're going to talk about fitness to people, and we are going to get totally chewed out for this. And
And it's
what
okay if you guys have comments. I'm here for that. I'm here for that. Drop them in the comments. I am absolutely here for it. But go ahead.
What ultimately we are talking about is we are talking about cultivating self-discipline and living a life with self-discipline. And in our world, psychologically, we have this kind of sense of entitlement that if we are getting pleasant things in life and we're enjoying life and we're resting, it's because we deserve it, which inherently means that we don't deserve it when things are hard. And I'd like to really challenge that concept because when we look at exercise as something that's only painful, when we look at saying no to food or saying no to commitments or saying like learning how to say no to people, even to take care of ourselves, what we are cultivating are nervous systems that are regulated.
Mhm.
And learning how to do this, and I actually had this talk. I keep having this talk because I'm on this big dopamine. If you follow me on TikTok, I'm on this dopamine reset with sugar. But I'm talking to a lot of people about this because what happens when we are constantly flooded with dopamine all day long? Screens are doing this. We go to work. We're on screens, right? We're eating sugar when we come home. We're sitting on the couch. We're doom scrolling and watching TV. And our lives are lacking order and structure and discipline.
Mm.
And anybody who's been on vacation long enough, who goes into the office, you know what happens when you're on vacation. Like if you really love your job and you go on vacation, you're really excited about vacation. You go on vacation, and within a decent time of vacation, you get restored, you feel better, but you want to return to work because we want to return to the rhythm that work brings us,
The routine, the
right?
consistency. Yeah.
That's right,
Hmm.
consistency. And so when people become really afraid of change, that's ultimately what we're talking about, it's because they feel like they're comfortable now. They have lied to themselves that the way that they are living is fine for them. And we can always tell the truth of this because when I see people in my office and they try and they repeatedly say, I don't care or it's fine, it tells me it's not fine. And they do actually care deeply.
Hmm.
And the reason for that is that we are trying so hard to convince ourselves that we don't care, that we're okay, that we are like we love our life like it is, we love our bodies like it is, or maybe we don't love it, but it's fine and this is
We've
just what
accepted
happens.
it. Yeah.
That's great. This
Yeah.
is just what every middle-aged woman looks like. This is just what happens because of hormones. I can't help it. What we are actively doing is we are moving back into a place of helplessness as human beings. And we are saying that we are a victim to our metabolism, we are a victim to our hormones, we are a victim to our age, and we are a victim to our situation. And that keeps us from taking responsibility for ourselves.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that you brought this piece up because I really wanted to dive into this part of it. I feel like fitness removes self-deception. And
Mm,
I don't feel like people are like, get fit, you're going to be more disciplined. I don't really feel like fitness adds discipline. I think it removes the ability to lie to yourself, is what it does, right?
yeah.
You can negotiate with people, you can make a lot of things seem true. You cannot negotiate with your body. It doesn't work that way. Your body reflects. It is a walking billboard of your habits, what you accept, who you surround yourself, the things that you do on the daily basis. Your body is a walking billboard of that, and you can't negotiate with your body. And so that's why fitness patterns like I feel like they expose more than therapy does alone, right? Just because that
Mhm.
is just something you can't hide. So I would love to hear from you, like, why does the body reveal dishonesty so quickly? There is something that, as a human being, we want to say
Yep.
we don't judge, but we as human beings, within split seconds of meeting somebody or seeing
Mhm.
somebody, we are cultivating a belief system of them or an
That's
opinion,
right.
a thought
That's
about
right.
them. So why does the body do that? I want to hear about this. It's so fascinating to me.
Well, okay, and I work, and I want to go back to something really quickly because I want to also speak to those of us that over exercise, because there are people who compulsively exercise as well. Is that fitness is also about discipline and taking rest,
Hmm.
right? It isn't just one or the other. It isn't just simply showing up. Being a good worker doesn't mean that you're working 70 hours at work. It means that you have good balance. It means that you're coming to work with enough energy and you have enough for at home, that you're a well-rounded person. Because when we're doing that, we're joyous. When we're doing that, we're authentic. When we're doing that, we're alive. We're not just shells of ourselves. Um, and the reason why the body actually displays what's going on, what we are or are not doing, is because we can't lie with chemistry. We can't lie with neuroscience. You can do I share this story often. This is a kind of a funny, haha, funny story now. It wasn't so funny in the moment. But in my third child, he was 3 days early, and my two prior children had come 3 days late. So I just assumed that he was going to come 3 days late. I psychologically convinced myself that this child was going to be late and I was just going to have to like bear this burden for longer. And so when I went into labor with him, I thought, okay, I just haven't drank enough today. This is Braxton Hicks. It's fine, whatever. And I called the doctor because they've been, contractions for a while. And the doctor says, yeah, you don't sound like you're in labor. Um, but in 45 minutes, if it's still kind of painful, just come in and we'll check you anyway. So 45 minutes later, I'm shown up at the hospital and I dilated to 8 centimeters. At that point,
Yeah.
he was born 15 minutes later. I get any like I couldn't get drugs at that point, even if I wanted it. I was screaming like a banshee. I'm like sobbing. And I was sobbing because I was like, oh my gosh, I actually really was in labor. I had gaslit myself
And
into believing that my pain wasn't real. And just like my experience, and this is how profound our psychology is, if we convince ourselves of something, if you convince yourself that this is just how life has to look in middle age, this is just what happens to everybody, it's totally fine and acceptable, but you're miserable inside, you're not going to feel it. You're not going to be your authentic self. You're not going to be living with joy. You're going to be embarrassed about your body. You're going to be really struggling to show up effectively in this world. In the same respects, if you don't go to the gym, or let's say you do go to the gym, I was one of these people. You go to the gym and then you eat like a trash panda when you're home because like you deserve it now,
mhm.
right? Like I did all the workouts, so now I can have everything that I want. That's food freedom, right? No, it's not. That's lack of discipline still,
Mm.
right? And my body showed that. And there was nothing wrong with me. I am still a good person. I was a good person there. I like, I still have lots of compassion and generosity as a human being. You are still a wonderful person, regardless of your size, your heart, your intentions, your drives in life, your beliefs, your compassions. Like all of those things are still very valid and they make you who you are. But then, can you show who you are when you are not proud of yourself? And when your body reflects what it is that you're doing in the kitchen behind the scenes or that you're not doing in the gym? And I've heard a number of people say, and I'm just one of these people, I'm showing up at the gym and I'm like, I do weights. I do, I do weights. What are you
Yep.
talking about? I go
Mhm.
and I'm like, and you sit there and you're talking to somebody and,
Going through
and
the motions.
that's right. I'm not really actually doing anything, guys. I could be doing this with my phone. It doesn't really matter. But like, there is no commitment to that. There's no structure to that. There's no focus with that. And everything in life worth doing requires some hardship. I have never heard a single person look back on anything that they have done that was given to them going, I am so proud of myself. I am so proud of myself. My parents bought my house, and I am so proud of myself for my parents buying my house for me.
Mm.
No, we say, "Oh my gosh, I had to work overtime. I really had to save. I had to eat like mac and cheese for a
Bust
while."
ass and yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
I had to pinch pennies, and I made that down payment, and I got into this place.
Yep. 100%, 100%. I want to dive into, you talked a little bit about as far as just, our being able to regulate our emotions and our nervous system. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And again, this might be slightly triggering, but please hear me out, you guys.
Mm,
I feel as if, well, we've talked about this before in prior podcasts. We have a mental health crisis and we have an obesity epidemic in the United States. I don't think anybody would be like, oh, really, right? It's pretty apparent. And I feel like those two, I don't want to call them issues, but problems, they rise together. They go hand in hand.
mhm,
And I really feel like most people aren't depressed, they're dysregulated.
mm,
And a lot of
mm,
emotional struggle is a nervous system problem. It's not like this character flaw, right? And
mm.
low physical capacity creates reactivity, emotional fragility, avoidance, overwhelm, disbelief. And so it comes down to the fact that we are diagnosing emotions that are often consequences of physical neglect.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And I would love to hear your thoughts there.
Yes. Okay. Well, and I'm actually gonna approach it from a little trick that I give people to do as a nervous system hack, and then I'll explain it from there. So a lot of times when I'm working with people and working on regulation, and this is trauma responses, it could be managing anxiety, it doesn't matter what it is. I'm like, okay, go home, go and do a cold shower at the end of your shower, just 15 seconds, 30 seconds, as cool as you can get the tap. And what I want you to do as you're doing this is I want you to engage in square breathing. And they're looking at me like, oh, okay, whatever. What's that going to do? Right. And then they go and they do it and they're like, well, that was miserable. What the heck? What's the point of that? So this is the point. Square breathing releases serotonin. Serotonin is what's in Prozac. We at one point we were the Prozac nation. Okay, we didn't have enough serotonin, which regulates obsessiveness and happiness and does a whole bunch of things inside of the body. Um, but we don't have enough serotonin. So what square breathing does is it releases serotonin. It actually communicates to the body, I'm okay. And do you know what the cold water does? It mimics stress. All right, here's a fun
Mm,
fact about us as human beings is the body doesn't discriminate the difference between emotional stress and physiological stress. Stress is stress. And if your nervous system isn't wired to tolerate stress, tolerate the pain of going for a workout, tolerate the pain of going outside on a 20-degree day for a walk with your dogs because you need to get your steps in. All right. Not that
She's
I'm
not
preaching
speaking
for
from
myself.
personal experience.
What happens is we become pain avoidant and we look at all pain as bad instead of some pain is good because some pain grows our nervous system and expands us and allows us to get reset. I go outside at night and walk my dogs in 20-degree weather because I like the fact that it's cold. I like the fact that it's quiet. And I love the fact that I have downtime for my brain where I'm not on and nobody needs me.
Mm,
That is an ultimate reset, right? And when we struggle to show up in the gym because we don't like the pain or we're embarrassed or we don't know what to do or we think people are going to judge us, nobody's really judging you. And if they are, it's because they're judging themselves. Most of us who've been to the gym have done exactly all the wonky things that you're about to do.
yeah.
I know I
We're
have.
so in our own head of doing our own thing. Like I just people all the time. It's like I always saw him like I'm like, why didn't you tap me or something? They're like, well, and I was just like, I waved, and I'm like, I'm so in my own like head and space. What anybody else is doing around me is like, I, I just it's not even like it's just
Yes.
not even a
Yeah.
thing, right?
It's
Because I'm just
like
in
not
oh
even in
man,
my
yeah,
awareness,
exactly.
right? Um, and the power of submitting yourself to discipline and submitting yourself to the process of being fitness, what we have to do cognitively and emotionally to learn how to cope with this is we have to stop telling ourselves that we're fine just the way that we are when we're actually miserable and dying on the inside.
Mhm.
We
Mm,
have to admit that we don't like not only how we look, but how we feel.
mm. You just nailed that. And this goes into, and Ann and I were talking about the skin right before we hit record. And this could probably be a podcast episode in of itself. But you, like you said, people have got to stop accepting this as just like you said, normal and just well, it's my age, it's my hormones, it's this, and lying to ourselves, just like you said, of I'm miserable inside, but we just came out of an epidemic, and we were talking about this before I hit record, but we just came out of the whole epidemic where we were normalizing being morbidly obese in the name of self-love.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And again, slightly triggering topic. I understand this, you guys, and I am all for loving your body for where it's at, but you can love your body and still want to change it. Those two things can coexist together and change it for the betterment of I just don't want to be inflamed. I don't want to ache. I don't want to have pains, right? Not even just change it in the sense of your physical appearance and looks,
Yes.
but we just came out of this epidemic where we have, like I said, normalized obesity in the name of self-love
Mm-hmm.
and, accepting that to the pendulum swinging so far in the opposite freaking direction with GLP-1s.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is on a GLP-1 these days, and there's nothing wrong with GLP-1s, you guys. We utilize them
Nope.
on our team when they are
Yep.
dosed correctly. They have a plan, they have a strategy. You guys have heard me talk about this. I am so passionate about peptides. I love them. I love peptide therapy. But what we're seeing is we have celebrities now showing up skeletal, right? Like, have you guys seen Ariana Grande? You can count her ribs. Like that dress that she wore, I can't even remember where I saw it. And I was like, good God. Good
Yeah.
God. And it's like right now, this is the sexy, this is what, as influencers or celebrities think that, they need to showcase. But 20 years from now, it's going to be osteoporosis and,
Mhm.
bone fractures and disability in nursing homes. And you will
Oh,
be paying people to help you with everyday basic tasks.
also, can I add to the fact that, in sustaining this, you're missing out on a lot of life's pleasantries like
Oh my
food,
gosh, like food.
like
Exactly.
like
The joy
energy.
of like what life energy, hair growing
That's
and
yes.
thriving, and it's not
Yes.
falling out in chunks and nails that aren't brittle. But my question to you, Anne, is, and it's fascinating to me because as a society, why do we take everything to the most extreme place possible? Why are we normalizing being 100 pounds overweight and calling it self-love? But on the other hand, too, we are clapping for celebrities that are showing up again. We can count ribs through dresses. It's like the pendulum swings so far. Why can't we balance and find the center? And it's like, as a society, we refuse to glamorize and sexify and get really excited about the center.
Yes. Yes.
Dive into that
Well,
for me.
and I'm going to make this a story because I feel a need to make it a story all the time. But the pendulum swing is there for a reason. And one of the things that's very interesting for us as human beings is that when we identify that something's really painful, we have to create a story around it. And usually that story is in relationship to us. And so when we were doing the health at every size, and I met the author of that book, and I actually challenged him, and this was like almost 2 decades ago now, as I embarrassingly enough, where I said, I disagree with that because if somebody comes in with the anorexia, I'm going to help them gain weight. That's a part of the process. Like, why would I just let somebody who is struggling with food then stay overweight if that's not healthy for them? And we know that that's not just but in insurance data point, we know that obesity is linked to chronic metabolic and chronic
Mhm.
medical issues,
Yep.
right? Like lots of problems. Okay. But what happens though is that because our brain wants a story and it wants something relatively simple, it goes off of this. So one of the stories, and one of the folks that I saw at one point in time said, they came in and they were having lots of difficulties with one of their kids, and they said, I don't understand. I've been to every game. I paid for all of these things. I made sure that they always had a roof over their head and really nice clothes and all the designer clothes. How could they possibly be upset with me? I did all the things. I loved them so well.
Mm.
And when we kind of like went back, those were all the things that weren't provided to him by his own father, who was kind of broke and had to work all the time. So he couldn't make any games. He felt unloved by his father. And so he overcorrected. He kind of did all the things. And the child that he had was ungrateful
Yep.
because the child didn't feel loved by those things.
Mm.
Right. And so, what happens in life, and we all do this, and I've heard this time and time again from people that were overweight and they were bullied because they were overweight. They were bullied about their size. They were called fatty. They were made fun of repeatedly. They were rejected by friends. That becomes painful, right? And what children do is we want to make it about us. And so then they say, and the brain, like, this is fixable, okay? Because all I have to do is lose weight. And the problem is that if I can't identify the core issue, which is I have pain and my nervous system is dysregulated and I'm seeking food for comfort, I'm never going to lose weight. So we enter in GLP-1s and we go, oh my gosh, I'm finally going to get that thing that's going to make me feel like I am good enough.
Mm.
And we get there and we realize it's still not good enough.
Mhm.
And we make it about our butts. We make it about the fact that we're not tone enough. We make it about the fact that we wish we had a different nose now, or longer hair, or better clothes, or more money. We can make it about anything on the planet when ultimately us feeling good enough as a human being is about a core wound. That is about a cognitive distortion from a pain that existed in your childhood that we have to go back and fix and regulate your nervous system to. And when we do that, your worth is not on the table when it comes to your weight.
Mhm.
I'm just going to say that again. Your worth is not on the table when it comes to your weight, which means you are no longer chasing a number. You are no longer chasing a size. You are no longer chasing to be the prettiest, the fittest, the smartest, the most successful, or most degreed person in the room. You are now a person instantly worthy of love, and we level the playing field. And when I say level the playing field, what I mean now is now as a human being, what I'm doing in my actions is what I'm proud of.
Mm. I love that. I love that. And let's talk about this because I feel like people like fit privilege, and we've talked about fit privilege in prior episodes, and to pretend like it's not a thing is just ignorant. It is absolutely a thing.
Mhm.
And, opportunities don't necessarily always go to the most qualified. They go to the ones that show up in the best way, right? Like it's a capability in the sense of your presence. And I don't feel like pe- fit people aren't respected because they're thin. Fitness is going to change how people experience you. And what I mean by that is they're respected because of their presence, their ability to self-regulate, like you said, their boundaries. And
Mhm.
that's what comes with being fit. You have to have that to be able to get to a place within your physique that somebody would look at you and say, oh, she's fit. Like that requires a level of, I mean, boundaries at its finest and systems and processes that you have to be able to put into play. And so at the end of the day, what we're saying is that energy speaks before words do, right? And so you walk in with this presence, and that is what people are respecting. And it's not necessarily, I'm only worthy because my body looks a certain way or I fit into a certain size of jeans. I'm worthy and I'm confident and I have this presence because I have proven time and time and time again. We've talked about where confidence is the undeniable evidence and the stacking the proof that you are who you say you are, right? You continue to
Mhm.
show up, you continue to execute, you continue to do the thing. So fitness is going to it changes attraction and leadership and how people respond to you because you are like your body is a signal of your standards.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that is the part that I feel like people get twisted when they're like, it's not fair. It's just because how you look. And it's like, is it really though? Is it really because of just, yes, looks. Don't get me wrong. I said fit privilege, like looks will take you so, but they will only take you so far. It is the actions that drove the looks. That's where fit people get ahead. And that is the part that doesn't get talked about enough because it's really easy to point the finger and say, well, this person is only there because she's pretty and she looks good, opposed
Mhm.
to what it took her to actually get there and get to the place that she's at. So, do you have any thoughts there?
No, well, I want to comment on the concept of it's unfair. You're right, it is. It just is, right? Um, And there are a lot of things that are unfair in life that we will not solve.
Yep.
And what are you going to do about it? How is it that you are going to show up to make yourself proud? Because regardless, we know there are going to be moments we work really hard and we don't get the job, we don't make the grade, we don't get the reward. There are a lot of times that we are doing all of the group project and nobody else is helping. There are times that we do all of the right things and someone still is mad at us, or someone still won't respond to us, or someone is still harboring hurt feelings because of a mistake that we made years ago, right? Yes, are those things technically unfair? Yes, but we have no control over that.
Yep.
What we do have control over, however, is how we show up in response to that. Am I going to be salty and mad and constantly point fingers and go, well, I would have gotten somewhere different had I been really thin or had I been really fit? Is that what you're going to anchor your self-worth to and what happens in your life to? Or are you going to show up and really, really reflect, do I feel good about where I'm at? Am I representing myself well? And the reason that I say that is because when you can do that, when things in life happen that are unfair or that we don't like, it becomes a feeling that we experience and no longer a finger that we point.
Mm-hmm.
We stop complaining and we stop blaming and we acknowledge and we move on.
Yep. Yep. And it's like they're trying to keep the conversation moral instead of practical because like you said, yes, it exists and it is. There is a level of unfairness there. Like I said, they don't always opportunities do not always go to the most capable. I've seen it. I've experienced it. I have personally experienced on both sides of the coin. The person
Mhm.
who got the opportunity because of my physique or how I look and the person who missed out on the opportunity because of my
Mhm.
physique and how I look. So I have experienced it on both sides. And so I feel like it's shifting the power away. And instead, it's like, why don't we focus on our skills and our habits and our capacity and our ability to change it, and accept it? It is what it is. We can't change the reality of what it is, but you can change how you show up. And you
Mhm.
can change, your day to day to put yourself in that position. And I feel like when people look at somebody who is, and when I say fit to you guys, I feel like a lot of people look at the extreme of bikini competitors and bodybuilders,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And they take it to that level. But I don't want to, I'm not devaluing what it takes to get fit because there is a world where it continues. What you have to continue to show up and it's short-term discomfort for long-term goals. But in reality, getting fit it's it's stupid easy in the sense of the
Oh,
concept of what it is, right? Like
yes, it is.
we
Yes,
want
it
to
is.
really, especially as females, make it out to be this like chemistry metabolic equation that our body just isn't in this like one state, and then we have the insulin resistance community and we're out of fat burning zone and this, and I'm incapable because my body burns this instead of sugar, and like just whatever stories we tell ourselves. But at the end of the day, what is going to take for you to get fit is so ungodly easy. You are going to eat with an energy balance. You're going to be in a calorie deficit. You're going to consume enough protein. You're going to walk and move your body, and you are going to lift weights, and you're going to prioritize recovery. And you're going to do those things consistently,
Yep.
even when it's not fun, even when it's not convenient, even when it's not exciting. I did a video the other day talking about how, because I was having a conversation in my DMs, and somebody had said something. It was pretty powerful to me. I can't remember exactly how she framed it, but she said something like, "If you just were to hand me my body, then I could do the thing." And it's like, no, 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 sis, no, sis. That's not how it works. It's like saying, "Just give me the body and I can maintain it," is like trying to give somebody a business they didn't build. They're going to
Mhm.
burn it to the ground, right?
Mhm.
Because what women tend to do is we tend to chase the outcome instead of the habits and the
Yes.
standards that it take to achieve that.
Preach.
And
Yes.
so if I were to hand you your dream body today, you would do just that. You would burn it to the ground. You would lose it because do you know what that person does day in and day out? The consistency that isn't sexy. Like you look at Anna, and I talk about this all the time, you guys. Anna is, I mean, girlfriend is like 50s, ripped, jacked, shredded. She looks amazing. Like she is goals. Like I look at Anna and I'm like, goals at 50 years old. But do you know Anna was up at 3:30 this morning? Do you know what it looks like to, wake up and get your training in when you have a full day? She runs a business, she does the things, and what that looks like, even when it's really freaking cold outside. It's butt ass cold, and
Mm.
girlfriend's still up executing and doing the things. That's not sexy. Do you know what it looks like to nail your nutrition, even when fast food is more convenient, or a
Oh,
couple
yeah.
glasses of wine would drown out all of your problems for the day? That's
Yeah.
not sexy, right? Like that's not sexy to talk about. People don't want to talk about that. And it's like, well, just give it to me. No, no, no. Because I would give it to you and you would lose it 2 months later. It
Hmm.
doesn't operate. But we still have this idea. Same thing with GLP-1s, right? People are like,
Right.
they seem to think that the GLP-1 is there's something magical within that that's working. And it's like, you know why a GLP-1 works, you guys? It stops the food noise. You're not hungry. That's the magic of a GLP-1, point blank, end of story. Now, are there things that we're doing? Insulin resistance, if nutrition's on, yes, yes. But at the end of the day, it's not this like magic sorcery. And that's
Mhm.
what we tend to want to do as females is really overcomplicate it. I mean, getting fit when we look at it at bare basis is stupid easy. Stupid
Mhm.
easy. And I understand it may be easy to talk about, not always necessarily easy to execute because it requires, the actions can feel hard. Turning down the cookie can feel hard. Not going out and ordering whatever you want off the menu all of the time with, your girls multiple times a week or date night multiple times a week can feel hard. Having to say no when you typically say yes would feel hard. And there's this idea that now I'm just going off on tangents and I'm just thinking of all these conversations I've had leading into the new year as we're in 2026 and, talking to women about goals and, really truly what they want out of life. And we have, especially in the fitness influencer community, really want to over glamorize and, over like make it so sexy to lose weight as if it's just like this easy thing. And as if it's just, you know what I mean? It's like, no big, you just have to have this perfect process and my cortisol cocktail. And no worries, honey. You're going to drop it. And it's like, there is not a world if you have 20 plus pounds to lose that you will live where there won't be some form of restriction or you won't feel that. That's normal. But what got you to the place where you're 30 plus pounds overweight was the exact opposite of restriction. And we want to look at restriction as like this negative thing. People want to put so much like, I guess, power to it. But yes, restriction, anything to the extreme, you guys, anything like we just talked, the pendulum, right? Anything restriction to the extreme, working and with what you do, and women who struggle with eating disorders. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about somebody looking at restriction and it's like, well, I can't do this because I feel restricted. You feel restricted because you had to order chicken instead of pasta today?
Hmm. Hmm.
Like
Right.
that is your definition of restriction.
But that actually isn't restriction. That is discipline and that is shooting for a goal, right? So and you know me, I always have
Yeah,
to do this as a plug
I know.
every
I
single
love it.
time we
I
talk
love
about
it.
this. Like it's not that you can't have pasta or cookies or wine or have days that you don't go or even weeks when you're on vacation and you don't go into the gym. It's not that you can never eat over a calorie load that but you have to be much more mindful about the yeses that you say
Yep.
and the nos that have to predominate, right? So if if I go out with my friends and it's girls' night and I'm saying yes to alcohol and sweets and appetizers, like that's fine, okay? But then 2 nights later, I'm going out with my husband for date night, and it's Friday night. This is what we do on Friday night, and then work, and somebody brings in food at work, and they brought in chips and sandwiches, and even though
Hmm.
like it doesn't really meet my goals, I'm gonna go ahead and have it because it's good and it's hungry and that's what they ordered. So I mean, like it's not my fault they brought in chips and sandwiches,
Yep.
right? And so what happens is that we are living our life reacting to what our environment is telling us and then just impulsively going with the flow instead of going into it with mindfulness. You can have wine with your friends. I do.
Yep.
You can have cookies. You can have dessert. You can enjoy. I did. I enjoy Christmas fully. I went on vacation. I enjoyed vacation fully, right? But you have to learn where to say no, and you have to learn when to make educated strengths around the yeses that you are making,
Yep. This idea
right?
that you're going to get to your dream body, being able to eat whatever you want, whenever you want, however much of it you want, you guys, is just living in the land of Delulu. It is quite literally living in this like ulterior world where, and this is again what influencers I'm seeing are doing, and it's just this idea that you should never feel restricted, you should never feel this, and it's like I argue against that. I truly do. There is a world that, and here's again, we want to talk about harsh realities. Once you get to the ands or the places in within, you're happy with your physique. Sustaining and maintaining that is so much easier than getting to that
Oh,
place,
yes,
so
absolutely.
much easier. You have so much more flexibility and freedom. So there is a world if you have 30 plus pounds to lose that you will have to say no on occasion. You will have to turn down the cookie. You will have
Mhm.
to make better quality decisions. And then once we get you to that place of your outcome, the body, sustaining and maintaining that and being able to fit cookies in, I promise you becomes 10 times easier to be
Oh
able
yeah.
to do that. Right. And so Fat loss comes down. It is, again, we want to overcomplicate it, but at the end of the day, it's not your insulin resistance, it's not your hormones, it's not your blood sugar, it is not, do those things impact? Sure. It is the inability to understand how to keep yourself in a deficit for a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't realize how how many calories are in certain foods, and we don't realize how much we're overeating in certain times, and it's just the lack of awareness around that. But when we look at what it takes, like fitness in of itself, it's basic elementary school math. That is ultimately at the end of the day what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
And we just, again, we want to live in this idea that it's something, this huge, like I said, chemistry equation, and I should never have to feel restricted, and I should build it. And that's just like, I've just been seeing so much content with the new year, and that being like this thing, and just the threads and the way people view it. But fitness, when we talk about this, and I guess I'm going to wrap this up, and you can bring your last thoughts here. It doesn't solve all of your problems, and that's not what I'm trying to tell you right now. It's not going to make, it doesn't make, it's not to say somebody who's fit doesn't have problems and doesn't have struggles, but it does remove your excuses. Like, end of
Mm-hmm.
story. That's what
Yeah.
it does.
And it also teaches your nervous system how to deal with appropriate levels of discomfort. So we expand our capacity to manage stress when we work on goals that are hard for us.
Hmm.
It expands your nervous system. All right. And when we're expanding our nervous system, it's not just around fitness, it expands to other areas of life. I've heard of women that they get really good at managing the food piece, and suddenly now they're tackling what their house looks like, and they're tackling how much they're shopping, or they're tackling their finances differently. Because once you understand the process involved and how many yeses you were saying that were incorrect yeses, and how many no's you got to start saying, it crystallizes other things and it makes other things much more clear.
Hmm. Yep. There's a reason fitness is the first domino for a lot of people, right? It's like, I got fit, I lost some weight, I developed a skill set, I have more confidence in myself. And, when we work with, and it's like they left the toxic relationship, they started the business, they got the promotion. Fitness is the opening door to a lot of those things, very much so for a reason. It is again, like, it is a values that you cultivate, and you start to operate from a different value system, and it no longer becomes just what you do to chase some superficial thing that's out there, whether 20, I want to lose 20 pounds. Cool, why don't we shift that to, how do I become the person that loses 20 pounds?
There you go. Yeah,
That's the difference.
that's mic drop.
Yeah, mic drop. Boom, 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 bam. Anything else to add to that, Anne?
No, I think we covered it.
I do
This is
too.
good.
You can tell I get a little passionate, but this has been so top of mind for me, and I hope for those, if anything triggered, I would really love to hear your thoughts in the comments, of just
Please
if we
do.
happen to miss anything, or maybe we generalize something in a way, and you have any feedback, would love to hear it. And yes, there's always arguments on both sides of the coin, but again, from somebody who's been 100 pounds overweight multiple times, I can promise you the skill set and the identity that I have now as a fit person has translated into every other area of my
Mm.
life. And that was the point of this podcast. So, as always, likes, comments, shares. We always appreciate. Tag us in your social media, guys, and we will see you in the next episode. Ciao.
If this is helpful, give me a like, follow me, or subscribe for more.